Here I am in my bedroom again. I feel like it is just like not cute in here. There are lights, but I haven't been able to figure out how to make the camera high enough to make that be seen, and it's okay. This is the second episode of the Spirit Talks podcast. I'm going to build upon what I talked about in the first episode. I've touched on it a little bit about how I believe pop culture, celebrity culture can help us even in a spiritual way. Because the truth is, everything has some type of spiritual meaning. Everything is spiritual if you want to look at it in that way. And looking at the current events that are going on, looking at public figures, it can help us with our life if we look at it in that way. I feel like recently there's been this big push against celebrity culture because people do put it on a pedestal, right? They put people on a pedestal and they think that they're more than a human. They put all of these things onto them and make them like a god almost. And I do understand that perspective, but if we're able to kind of take them off the pedestal and be like, okay, they are a person that I can learn from, then we can see it in a spiritual way. And if you're looking at this from a spiritual view, I do believe that when someone comes into a life and they become famous, they're a celebrity, they knew that that was going to happen. Right? On a soul level, they knew that that was going to happen. That is what they were signing up for. So in that sense, that soul knows that collectively we would be learning from them. There will be collective themes that get brought up, certain lessons get brought up through their lives so that the collective can learn from them, which is really cool if you think about it. And it's also a big thing to sign up for everyone collectively to work through things because of what you're going through in your life. It is a big thing to sign up for. It also goes back to thinking about like the macrocosm to the microcosm, and how the microcosm is working out in the macrocosm. It's like all these things are working itself out on big or little scales, and we can learn from both of those. And back to how people just push against like the whole celebrity culture thing, I understand it because yes, we shouldn't put those people on a pedestal. We're all human, we're all on the same playing field, but at the same time, it's just fun. You know, it's fun to do that. It's fun to speculate. It's fun to have a little tea, a little drama. It doesn't have to be that serious, you know? And even past like the soul level signing up for this, humans know when they are getting into certain industries that what they're signing up for to a certain extent. They know that people are going to speculate on their lives. So, and just to give like a little bit of background on this, I'm a fangirl. Okay, I've grown up a fangirl. I've been like chronically online for most of my life, okay? When I was in the 6th grade, my name on Facebook was Aubrey Jonas, okay? I got Twitter when it first came out because I was trying to follow around Justin Bieber to know what water parks he's performing at that weekend. Like, I've been through lots of fandoms. Like I know my stuff. I know all the big events. I know all the little things that happen, and I see how it all played out in the fandoms online, which is very fun for me and interesting for me. And I actually think like growing up, it provided this sense of community for me. Me and my best friend had like a fan account that we shared, which is really embarrassing, but we did. And again, that's where like this doesn't have to be so serious. It's fun, it's playful. But through this episode, I wanted to go through certain celebrities, certain celebrity topics that have come up over the years that is a great example of how we are learning through them. How I find it come up most of the time is collective shadow, or the collective inner child that comes up in order to be looked at and worked through. And when I say collective shadow, it's mostly when we start to judge something on a mass scale. It's very easy to judge something when we think it's way outside of us, when we think that, because of course when someone's like a celebrity, we start to not think that they are on a human journey, or we start to think, oh well, they're so privileged, and because they're so privileged, we see them in a certain way and we almost think that they are not allowed to feel certain emotions because of that. And that's where the collective shadow comes up, because shadow is where you judge something, but in reality you're only judging that thing because you have also judged yourself for that thing, or someone else has judged you for it. So your shadow is all the things you don't want to look at. You're pushing it away. And there are so many things I'm sure that can come to the top of your head right now when you think about pop culture, celebrity culture, even just like things in the news that we all point a finger at, but we all know that we've all experienced it in some way, shape, or form, or someone had judged us for doing the exact same thing. And even if it's something that's really dark, and we'll talk about, I have this whole thing that I'm going to kind of wrap this all up with, but I will just touch on it now, that even if it's something really dark or that we consider evil, it's very easy for us to push against it instead of trying to be empathetic and understanding it, and understanding that that kind of evil, that kind of hurt, the bad things, like that only happens because of so much pain and so much hurt that the collective is feeling, because hurt people hurt people. So I'm going to start with some lighthearted examples, and then we're going to get a little bit more deep as the video goes on. So the Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, and the Hailey Baldwin drama. Okay, that is something that I've followed since the very beginning, and trust me, I am a Selena girl over a Hailey girl. I always have been, okay, because I watched the whole thing unfold. I didn't like how the whole thing unfolded, but whenever this all happened recently, when the drama came out about them with the eyebrows and they're the mean girls, Hailey and Kendall, like they're the mean girls, and Kylie, I think it really showed on a collective level. We always want to blame the woman versus blaming the man that is so obviously at fault, the main person at fault. None of that would have ever happened if Justin didn't start dating someone directly after Selena, or probably at the same time. None of that would have happened. They would have never been pinned against each other if he didn't do that, right? But it shows that on a collective level that we still have this internalized misogyny. We still are always going to blame the girl over the man. But how this can go from the macrocosm to the microcosm, why so many people got so mad about that, is because everyone has a Hailey in their life. Everyone knows like that pick-me girl that got the guy you wanted instead. Everyone knows that Selena. We've all either been the Selena in a situation, or we've all either been the Hailey Baldwin in a situation. And that's where a lot of us were so easily, and trust me, it's me too. We are so easy to point the finger at Hailey, but we have all had pick-me moments. Trust me, we've all been a pick-me girl at some point over some stupid man. And my dog just got up here. And that's just how I look at things. Like when all of that was going down, I could just see like this on a spiritual level of like, wow, this is why everyone's so triggered by this. Because we've all experienced it. Like we all know it. We've all like, and we didn't even need that drama to even happen, right? But once it did happen, it brought up our collective unconscious. It brought up all of us to get triggered about it. And in a way, it's almost like healing, you know? Because all of us were having those conversations. And yeah, it did get pretty toxic there at the end. And it was very like drama filled, and it was very, like I couldn't even imagine being Hailey in that moment, you know, even though I do think she was in the wrong. But that's such a great example of shadow, of how everyone really wants to like blame someone. There's some type of blame. Yes, I do think if we're gonna put any blame, it's on Justin. But at the same time, there is no blame at the end of the day. Like it's just this toxic cycle, this toxic pattern that needs to be different. And that's what to blame. And that brings me into the inner child element of that. And I could literally do like a whole episode just on Justin Bieber, because I know all the background on it. Just like I want to do a whole episode on like the spiritual perspective of Taylor Swift as well. Justin has a very wounded inner child. And you can see how this toxic pattern is being played out because of that wounded inner child. But that also goes for Selena and Hailey as well. Hailey's a Nepo baby, but just because you're a Nepo baby doesn't mean that you don't have your own issues. I'm pretty sure one of her parents was an addict. I'm not exactly sure. I know that there was issues within her family. So of course she's going to internalize some of those. And this is why I want to do a whole thing on Justin, because I feel like Justin also puts a lot of pressure on like the Christianity part of things, and I think Hailey does too. It's like, it's a band-aid. It's a band-aid to be like, oh well, I'm this Christian person, so like I'm good, you know? It's almost a wall being put up so Justin doesn't have to look at his inner child. He doesn't have to admit that maybe his mom did some things wrong. But yeah, and of course that goes into a wounded inner child on Selena's part too, because they're all child stars, okay? And I can't remember who I saw said this. It might have even been Justin that said it. I don't know. I've heard someone say this before, and it makes complete sense that like the age that you become famous is almost the age that you get stuck at. That makes a lot of sense to me why that gets played out in that way. And of course, if we're doing like for the regular person to try to relate to that, I don't think we're ever going to be able to. That's something that's very particular to them. But we can still see those inner child wounds getting played out on a bigger scale. And we can even bring it to the next topic of just child stars. Like, I think about Aaron Carter, like that is so heart crushing to me. Even Michael Jackson, those are all just examples of people that did have such a wounded inner child that they really did try their best. Like, you can see through their art, and even like Aaron, the way at the end he was really trying to get back out there and get into social media. I do think there was some mental illness going on with him as well, but those are good examples, even like Justin included, of people that you can tell their wounded inner child is there, but it's almost a miracle in the sense that they're still able to keep going. They're still able to make art despite of it. I feel like there's more examples than just them of like very young people that became famous very, very young like that, but they're all like walking miracles in my mind of just like how they were still able to perform and create beautiful things even though there was so much wounding there. And I would even say, like with Michael Jackson, I feel like that's a good example of someone that maybe got stuck at the age that they got famous. I know that there's a lot of controversy around that, but I'm not getting into that here. I'm literally just talking about how we collectively can learn from something like that. And I feel like in a way, you know, I'm talking about the wounding of the inner child, but with Michael Jackson, you could even see how some of him was still intact. But the thing was, it was almost like a part got stuck, and it was hard for the adult to come forward. I made a TikTok about this the other day about how like you want the inner child intact, but the adult to still be there. Like, it's not that you want to be an adult walking around acting like a kid. It's more that you want your unique experience to build upon an intact inner child. So it's like the experience of life makes you have more wisdom, but you still have this playfulness of the inner child. And I feel like Michael Jackson had that innocence still, but there were some things that just didn't completely grow up, I guess. So on to Taylor Swift. Again, I want to do a whole different video just on her like spiritual awakening that I think that she had, how she does spiritual work, whether she realizes that it's spiritual work or not, because I think that she has so much inner child, so much shadow work that she's done, and I think that we can learn from that. But what I want to talk about here, and I kind of touched on it with the Justin, Selena, and Haley thing, is this internalized misogyny that we could see at play through Taylor's career, and we still even see it today. You know, it was like a news headline everywhere that, oh, this is Taylor Swift who just goes guy to guy, and it doesn't matter who he is, she's gonna write a song about him. But the truth is, there were other male singers that do the exact same thing, John Mayer, Ed Sheeran, that they make songs about women, they date different people constantly, and no one ever says anything about them. And you could literally see how like there was just this public shaming, and it's so sad when you think back on it of why. But also I feel like we have overcome that in some ways. Yes, I see people still do it, but I see a lot of people be able to look back and be like, ew, like why did that happen? And this brings another thing with like celebrity culture, is that I think when we get it out like that, we're able to look at it more easily. We're able to look back at it. And if we didn't have the celebrity culture, we wouldn't be able to look at it in that capacity. We wouldn't be able to look back at the history and be like, oh, that was effed up, you know? And there's been this whole other thing recently, which is Gaylor theories. I'm a Gaylor, if y'all don't know what that is. It's basically a conspiracy theory that people think that Taylor Swift is on the spectrum of gay, basically. And it's so funny because I saw this same pattern get played out with Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson. There was theories then about Larry, that they might have been having some type of relationship with each other. And even then, it was like this big discourse within the fandom. And I see it happening with Taylor, of like this discourse of like, she's kind of gay, no she's not. And the people that say no she's not, sometimes they come off very homophobic in the way that they come across. And it was the same thing with the Larry stuff. And I bring this up again, where on a collective level, us looking at, okay, where is like our internalized homophobia here? Because a lot of this, it feels, it's not as blatant. It's not like let me just give an example, okay? Someone will make a theory about what they think a song is about, okay? What a Taylor song is about, okay? Taylor has a lot of songs that allude to a girl and girl relationship, okay? Let's say someone has a theory about that song, that they think it's about a girl, and they're literally just stating it. And people will come at them and be like, it's not about that, it's about this, this, and this. Don't speculate on her sexuality. And it comes from a very triggered place, and it makes you think like, why does that trigger you so much? Why does it bother you so much that maybe Taylor could be a little gay? Does it really, like, because if it didn't bother them, they literally would just listen to the theory and not say anything. And that really wasn't that great of an example. I wish I could like read some stuff to y'all about how people come at it, because it really bothers me. My uncles are gay, they're married to each other, and whenever I see like this very internalized homophobia, that it's so beyond, it's what's the word for it? It's a microaggression. I guess it's so like below the surface. It's not blatant, because it does really bother me, because it's almost like, would it really change your view of Taylor Swift that much if maybe some of her songs are about girls? And those of you that maybe you never knew those theories, you're probably like, what the heck? But on TikTok, it's very, very common and people talk about it often. I think it's been a really great example of seeing like this being played out on a collective scale of like, okay, if someone as big as Taylor Swift came out, what would be the discourse? How would people react? And we don't have to get into all like the news and political stuff around the LGBT community right now, but we can see how it is still very blatant. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, we've come a long way, and we have come a long way. But then sometimes you're reminded how much that maybe we haven't. And this is something that maybe I've just picked up on, and really this could just be my opinion. But looking back at like the Larry rumors versus the Gaylor rumors, it feels like Larry was almost more accepted, not accepted, but like more people could get on board with it and more people could like laugh and play together about it, while the Gaylor theories and people thinking that Taylor could be gay brings up so much more like hate. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because those were men and that was a boy band. I'm not sure, but I've noticed that there is a difference. And to just bring, again, like the macrocosm to the microcosm, if you're not able to accept that maybe your favorite singer could be a little gay, then how are you going to be able to accept if like your best friend was, right? Let's go to talking about mental health and addiction on a big scale. So there are great examples of celebrities that we judge or shame when they have mental health issues or they have addiction issues. I made a list. Okay, Britney Spears, Amanda Bynes, Charlie Sheen, Gabby Hanna. Gabby Hanna is a YouTuber if y'all don't know. Many of those people, while yes, like especially Charlie Sheen, obviously there's like bad things that came along with that. But many of those people, there was like this laughing. Everyone was laughing at them. Right? It's really sad if you think about how on an individual scale those people were going through something. Like their darkest moments had to be played out in front of all of us and everyone laughed at them. And I know that a lot of that happened because most of us don't understand the importance of mental health. And I know that that's like so cliche. Like, y'all know I want to do a whole episode on mental health because people just think mental health sometimes is like anxiety and depression, when like that is the lowest of the lowest tier of what is going on for some people. Of course, it's still completely valid, but it's not what some people go through. It's just not. I mean, when you look at those videos of Charlie Sheen when he was saying all that stuff, and yeah, it is kind of funny, right? And trust me, whenever that happened to my loved one, I still laugh at some stuff that happened in that moment. But you still have to have this like understanding. But it's so obvious that Charlie Sheen was going through a manic episode. And then you look at like Gabby Hanna, if y'all know what happened, like she was making so many videos a day and just blaring music in her house. She let some random guy into her house, and it was so obvious that she was in a manic episode. And everyone was asking her, you know, and she kept denying it, and everybody thought, oh, well, she's denying it, so like she's not. And it's like, have y'all ever seen someone be manic or be psychotic? Like, they're never going to admit that it's happening to them. Of course, they're on top of the world in that moment. They don't know anything is going on mentally. And it was really sad. Like, looking back, and you know, Gabby hasn't said anything in a while. I don't even think she's been on social media in a while, but looking back, that was so sad. Everyone was making fun of her. And also, they thought that she was doing it for attention. Like, people really thought that she was just doing all that for attention. And it's like, that showed me how many people had never seen someone be mentally ill, like actually mentally ill in front of them. And it's really sad when someone is actually losing it, like they're on camera losing it, and everyone is like, oh, they're making it up. Like, it's insane. But it's also, we need more awareness around it. Like, people need to understand that this is a thing that is going on. And again, if we're bringing the macrocosm to the microcosm, okay, think of how many homeless people, or, you know, just like the random person that you see on the side of the street, that they're, you know, the crazy guy on the road, when most of them have addiction issues, or they are mentally ill and they don't have the health care to level it out. And so many people want to judge those people and think like, ugh, again, I'll go into it on my mental health video because it makes me really sad. But it just shows that on a big scale, and I guess I didn't even say like Lindsay Lohan, right? When people were obviously, like, they were party girls, Paris Hilton, they were party girls, they were having, Lindsay was having so many addiction issues. Paris Hilton even said something recently in an interview about like David Letterman calling her out about going to jail. It's just sad how there was no sense of understanding, there was no validating, it was just everyone shaming, everyone judging. And again, if we bring this back to shadow, everyone points the finger and shames and judges because they don't want to look back at themselves and ask, when have I maybe acted out of turn? When have I maybe lost it? When has one of my loved ones lost it? When have I maybe gotten too drunk? Maybe whenever I was a party girl, when was I a party girl? And that's why we project in that way. But also, that's how we're collectively learning. I can see people talk about on social media all the time, like how misogynistic the media was, especially to, you know, Paris, Lindsay, Amanda Bynes, Anna Nicole. I think there is a lot of self-awareness, but also, when I see this stuff happen with Gabby Hanna like a year ago, I'm like, okay, well, have we really come that far? We have a little bit, but people are so easily made into a meme or just judged or think that they're making something up when something really sad is going on. Even when Britney shaves her head, you know, it's like that becomes this big joke when it's like, what was actually going on? Like, that's actually scary. And we can even see this with like the conspiracy theories that people say about Britney to this day, that they'd rather believe that this person is cloned, or y'all, People would rather believe that Britney Spears is cloned than believe that maybe she has a mental health issue. Obviously, she's able to function and be and take care of herself without a conservatorship, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't still have some type of mental health issues that she needs to take care of. But I truly think it's because not enough people know about it. Not enough people understand. They haven't seen it with their own eyes. So here's another YouTube one. And I could probably do a whole freaking video on Trisha Paytas too. On just like why Trisha Paytas is so magnetic and people want to know more about her. Like, she's just so entertaining. When the whole frenemies thing happened, okay, Trisha Paytas and Ethan Klein. Trisha is also a great example of a mental health thing, borderline personality disorder, BPD, and it's very obvious in those clips, and it's really sad. And obviously some of the things that she did, like, that's not an excuse, but it also is a way for us to be understanding and understand where she was coming from and that she was super triggered. But we as a collective, like, we like this train wreck. We like watching it. It's like a thing on social media that everyone loves frenemies. Like, we miss it. I miss it. But we loved like seeing the back and forth. We loved seeing the train wreck of it. And it makes you think, and this is what it makes me think on like a deeper level. It makes me think, okay, why was that such a cultural reset? Like, why was it so magnetic? Why did we want to, like, we couldn't look away? I really think it had a lot more to do with Trisha than Ethan, because it's that Trisha is unapologetically herself and she has no filter. She's gonna say what she wants to say, and I feel like deep down we all wish that we could do that. We all wish that we could do what Trisha does in that way. Trisha does own things in the sense that she puts her shadow on display. There aren't certain things that she just pushes to the wayside. For her, everything's out on the table because she doesn't want you to use it against her. So she'll put all these things out on the table and say it unapologetically, like, this is who I am. Like, this is Trisha Paytas, this is who I am. And I think that's why we get so magnetized towards it, and we see Ethan like bounce off of it and be like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, but it's also so hard to not look at. But it's because deep down we all wish that we could do that. Y'all can disagree with me, but that's why I think it was like so fun to look at. But also, it was the train wreck part of it. We like looking at the drama of it, but we also loved seeing this silver lining of friendship that was being formed within all the chaos. That even though there was so much chaos and drama, that there was some type of bond that was being formed in spite of all the chaos. And it is really sad that that friendship is no more, and I pray that one day they will reunite and their families will be okay. But I think on a collective level, that's such a great example of when someone has such a big energy that you feel so magnetized towards, sometimes you let them be problematic. You're like, I don't care if you're problematic. I like watching you, and that's all I care about. And I think that we're all getting to a point. We've swung the pendulum like the full opposite way, you know? We've gotten so PC at this point that we're kind of pulling it back. Just, yes, you are very problematic, but I'm able to forgive you for certain things because I do like you so much. So I don't know, it's a hard line. I could do a whole episode just probably on that. But if I'm being completely honest, I think that that's a good thing, because that shows that on a big level, if we're able to set a boundary with a public figure and we're able to make them hold themselves accountable, but then still love them at the end of the day and still forgive them if they are doing different, if they're actually acting different, then we can do that on an individual level. Then we can do that with our own friends and family. We set a boundary, we hold them accountable, but we also love them at the end of the day. I think cancel culture can just like show us so many things, honestly, because it is this collective shadow thing. It's what we project, what we judge everyone for. We have to look in our own lives, look at ourselves and think, well, if I was on a public scale, would I also be canceled for this, this, and this, you know? And this one's kind of dark, and I won't go all the way into it, but I've made like lots of videos about this over the years, that Donald Trump is such a great example of the collective shadow coming up for everyone to look at it. Even like Donald Trump versus Hillary, like there was always this ongoing joke that it was like the best of both evils, you know? And I cannot think of a better way to even show that, because it was like the collective shadow of both sides were coming up. That was such like a crazy time. And this is where I say, like, you don't have to look at someone like Donald Trump and become so attached to like your soul self that you're able to see him so lovingly. You know, that's not what I'm saying, and that's not even the point. But the point is that you don't want to live your life where whenever you see a video or you see a Facebook post, something Donald Trump related, that it just triggers you and spirals you. Because when something like that creates this huge visceral response within you, that's your shadow coming up. That is your triggers coming up. And that is why the universe is choosing to bring this person up for everyone to look at, and look at, hey, there are parts of this person within you too. That's controversial and people don't want to look at it that way, but that's what spirituality is. Like, that's what this is. And no, again, you don't have to love that person, but you do have to understand that there's pain there that causes it. There's detachment from source that happens that causes something like that, and we all have that within us too that we have to work through and work on. And I'm not going to go like into all the conspiracy theories that wrap into all that, but trust me, I've gone through every rabbit hole that you could think of. And yes, I do have my own beliefs about certain things, but at the end of the day, and I kind of touched on this earlier, you have to get to a point where you look at the things that are super evil about this world that do get played out on a big scale, and you get to a point where you almost feel sad for those things. You feel sad for those people. You don't so much have all this resistance towards it. It's almost like it's this helplessness, it's this surrender that kind of comes over you, that you're like, I do not know how to fix something like that. And it's very sad that human race has gotten to a point where we separate from our true self so deeply that it causes so much pain, because that's what's happening. And to be really deep here, oneness, okay, oneness is God, right? But separateness, and when you are so separate that you believe in the separateness, that separateness believes that that is the only thing, I guess you could call that like ego. When it gets so separated, that is what causes all of this fragmentation and hurt and pain and evil. But that doesn't mean that it's not healable, that those fragmented pieces couldn't come back together into the oneness. But when you understand that those evil things, almost like a cry for help, and we have to have empathy to understand that a lot of times hurt people, and it's this deep pattern and deep collective pain that's being played out. I did want to touch on a couple like lighter things, because there are people, there are celebrities and public figures that we can look at and see them as examples of healing, of examples of an intact inner child, or people that do own their shadow. And again, I've already said that about a couple people here. I recently made a TikTok video about this too, but I do think an example of this is Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore feels like she has worked on her inner child a lot. I swear whenever I watch her show, sometimes I almost cry. Like, I almost want to cry, because she's so vulnerable, she's so in her body. She has like that playfulness of the inner child, but at the same time, like I said before, she builds on her life experience, so there's still like a wisdom there. There's still this adult there, but it's through the eyes of this wonder and innocence. It's really beautiful. And I think she's a great example of a public figure that has done a lot of work. I'm sure she has more to do, but I also look at, and I know this is a controversial opinion, but if you look at the life that Oprah Winfrey went through, if you actually look at her life story, it is a miracle that she is who she is today. Like, it is insane. And that is also someone that has put her pain on a collective stage for people to look at. She's talked about her story, and it takes so much courage and vulnerability to even be able to talk about a story as painful as hers. And then this person's more playful. I actually don't know the background of this person's story. I should look into it more. And I put this person in my TikTok, which is Jack Black, that is so obvious that he's someone that's so connected to his inner child. He doesn't take anything too serious. he just has that magnetic personality. Like, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about him, and if someone does, I'm going to plug my ears because I don't want to hear it. But yeah, I think he's someone that we can look at and be like, okay, that's a good example of what it looks like to have your inner child still intact. And there's this girl that I love. Her name is Lacey Phillips, and she has this company called To Be Magnetic. She has a podcast called The Expanded Podcast. I love her work. I've learned a lot from her, and a lot of her manifestation stuff has really helped me. She has this word called expanders, and she says that you need people in your life, or you can look to certain people that expand what you think is possible, right? So you can look to certain celebrities and you can be like, they came from a certain background that I came from, and because I see that they hit these certain goals, that means that I could hit these certain goals because they are the same as me. Maybe they've been through things that you've been through. If you had a similar story to Oprah Winfrey, right? You can look at Oprah's life and be like, well, if Oprah can come from that, then I can also do the same. So that is someone that's expanding your subconscious to believe that it's possible that you can do the same things that they can do. It also shows that if there's certain people on a public scale, celebrities, public figures, that you look at and they really inspire you, right? Like, you look at them and you're like, I really wish that I could do that. That is because your soul is seeing it in them that you are also able to do it. I have a lot of people like that, and Drew Barrymore is one of those for me, and that's part of the reason why I started doing this, because I just love how she can have such an authentic conversation, and she's so just unapologetically herself. And I look at that and I want that so deeply, but I know that it's because my soul recognizes that I'm able to do that, and that's why I look at her and think that. So look at your life and look at people that you really admire, and sometimes it's even people that you're jealous of. Even certain people that you're jealous of, it's showing you what you actually deep down want. Take note of how these things are playing out in your life. The collective is playing out all these themes, all these lessons through these public figures, through pop culture, through big events that happen in our lives and on a world scale. Try to be aware now of the public shadow of the inner child, when you may invalidate someone's experience, when in reality it's actually you invalidating your own inner child. There's also a collective inner child as well, and I feel like it comes up so often when we look at certain people and we invalidate their experience and we invalidate what they're feeling, and that goes directly to the inner child always being invalidated, no one trying to get on their level and understand their experience. That happens collectively over and over, and we have to become aware of it. So just start taking note on when these things are happening on a public level and bringing them down to a personal level, and how they are affecting your own life as well. There is so much deeper that I could go on this topic, but y'all tell me any celebrities that come to mind, any celebrity topics that come to mind whenever you were going through this episode. I hope to touch on more as more comes up in the present. I would really love to hear y'all's opinions, and I hope this helped you guys.